I'm sure you've been around people that can tell an absolute amazing story. They tell a story and everyone wants to hear more. They captivate everybody's attention. Everyone is just looking at them and they're laughing and they're having fun and then they're center of the attention and you're left being like, how do they do that? How can they tell a story? I can't do that. Well, I'm going to give you 7 points here to absolutely incorporate into your storytelling that is going to have you from telling a story that flops to a story that tops, that absolutely hits people, and people are going to remember this for many, many months, if not many, many years after you incorporate these 7 principles. So let's get into it. Now, I've been dealing with social dynamics for about 10 years. I have told stories in front of the most influential people in self-development, if not the world, and I've had hundreds of thousands of conversations with people, especially girls, and I've come up with 7 kind of key areas that really impact a story. So first of all, we got to understand what is storytelling and why is it important? Well, storytelling is basically sharing experiences that we've had that help us relate with the other person or help the other person relate with us. So let's just say I have a story where I'm in a cab and I was working for someone and I had a girl with me and there was another girl, and then basically we went to this place and we went there and it was good and it was like a restaurant, and you're probably bored already. There are ways to tell stories there's not. Now let me tell the exact same story. I was dating absolute celebrity status girl in Los Angeles. She was the top of the top, and the person I was working with had a person that was the top of the top in Vine. We went on a double date out to Malibu, the best restaurant in Malibu. It was amazing, except halfway there we forgot our IDs. Oh no, we had to turn back, and we turned back and we got the ID. I was having to do a bunch of work for the other person, and at the end of the night when I was with that girl, I asked her, when were you most attracted to me today? It was the first time we were seeing each other, and she said, when you were dealing with all the chaos and stress from dealing with the other person. I was like, that's that whole thing. That's what you were most attracted with me about. She was like, yeah, the way you handled that, it was just amazing. You were so cool, calm, collected. That's a story that you're actually intrigued with. That's a story that had a lot of these elements in there. So what I want to teach you are these elements right now. The difference between a good and a bad story comes down to attention. Are people interested in what you're saying? So number one, not only does your voice have to reflect the story, you can't be talking stories like, yeah, so I was there and I did this and I did that. You gotta have some energy, boys. Come on, like energy, get that out there. Be expansive in your story. If you're gonna tell a story, tell a story. Otherwise, don't. Don't half commit to a story. The very first thing that you have to understand, when you are telling a story, eye contact is the most important part of it. Eye contact is going to help you be able to read the room and read how engaged people are. If you don't have an eye contact, you're telling a story like this, and yeah, so I went there and then we forgot our passports and then it was like that. I can't even tell if you've zoned out. So it's really, really important for you to maintain eye contact. So say if there's 4 people, I'm not just looking at one person. I'm looking at the other person. I'm looking at that person. I might linger a little bit with you so I make sure you're a thing. I'm not stressing about trying to get to everyone, but I do get to everyone, because then I'm able to incorporate you're paying attention, you're paying attention, you're paying attention, you're paying attention. That's good. And I can see when they zone out a little bit, their eyes get a bit like wandering and they might go, oh yeah, or so I can understand that I can increase the volume of the story, I could slow it down, I could add some drama to it, really just take my time with the story. So this comes down to understanding that. The first thing is attention is what makes the story good. The second thing is loud voice. You're gonna tell a story, you're gonna tell it so people can hear it. This is why I try to avoid restaurants that have super loud music, or nightclubs that are obscene, they have train horns and shit like that. I try not to go to those ones, because if you're gonna tell a story, you're gonna tell it well, you're gonna make sure that everyone can hear it. It's a loud voice. 3, the pacing of the story is very important. I could tell another story. I'm in Romania and we're off to an event. And now this event, we've literally gone to Romania for. It's a big meetup between all boys from Twitter, and we're in an elevator and I press the down button and we absolutely get stuck on level 8. Nothing we can do. We're stuck. Call the person up, they say it's gonna be 25, 30 minutes. Now this is a tight elevator, real claustrophobic. We're like, 25 minutes, are you sure about that? So that's a story where I'm controlling the pace. I'm doing some fast bits, I'm also doing some slow bits. I'm controlling how engaged you are, because a story doesn't have to be raced through, I gotta capture all your attention, I gotta keep it, doesn't need to be like that. A story, you can actually linger in the words that you say. Sometimes they can be fast, or other times you can really just revel in the attention that people are giving to you. that center of attention. And sometimes the slower you talk, the more vacuumness, which is like you're creating a vacuum with the other person, they're investing more and more and more. And so you can do that. That's another thing about pacing. The fourth thing is that most of the stories that you think are good, you don't know if it's good or not. Now, a lot of my clients in social life mentoring, we do a lot of storytelling, and some stories they think are gonna hit, but absolutely don't. And then other ones are the ones I remember for years and years and years. One of the students actually did a story and we didn't really care too much about it, but then he told this other story where he won a national championship in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the lead up to the tournament he did everything opposite than what he did last time that he won the championship. So he did all this structured routine to win it, and this time he did the complete opposite. I found that fascinating. Everyone found it fascinating. He dived into the details. That's what made it really, really good. I was like, wow, that's a good story. So you never know what stories are going to hit with people, so experiment with a lot of stories, a lot of times that you've had in your life. The fifth one is playing the character. So in that story that I was in the elevator and I said I was very claustrophobic, and I was like, they were like, yeah, it's going to take 25 minutes. I was like, oh, 25 minutes, come on, man. I'm playing the characters, or I'm playing the situation firsthand for you that I was doing in that moment. So the thing, I even changed my voice. Yeah, it's going to be 25 minutes. I was pretending to be the monitor. I was like, 25 minutes, come on, man, we're cramped up in here. I'm playing and acting the story out for you, so you feel as if you are there. You feel as if you're in the story. Number 6 is, in order to do that, you want to paint the picture. So you want to paint the scenario. So if I tell a story about the elevator, I know what the elevator looks like. You don't know what that elevator story looked like. Or when we're in the car and I had that beautiful girl next to me, I'm painting the picture of what the scenario looks like. Even though I know what it is, I do that because I value your time and attention. Most of these stories, what happens is that people waffle and ramble on and go on, and they say details that don't matter because they think, it's going to be good. But what I do is I value your time so hard. I value that the story needs a beginning, middle, and end. I value your time, that you're going to get something about it listening to this story. So when I'm painting the picture, I'm painting the scenario so you feel as if you're incorporated into that story. You feel as if you're there because I value your time. Concise stories are better. So going back on the other one, beginning, middle, and end. Most people don't start off the story correctly, don't have a middle, don't have a hero story in it, and don't end the story. They kind of just end it with nothingness. Imagine if I told the story of us losing the passport and having to get back in the Uber when I had a pretty date with me. Imagine if I didn't end that story with, yeah, we were talking to me and she said, oh, I was most attracted to you when you were dealing with that. And I just left the thinking that we went there and then we got our passports. I was with a pretty girl and came back and I had to deal with some chaos. There's no ending to the story. It's like you can have a cliffhanger, but a lot of the time, if you don't handle the cliffhanger, then people tune out from the TV show. So imagine Game of Thrones had this big cliffhanger and then in the next episode, they didn't handle it. Well, you would be left like, oh. Right? So a lot of the time it comes down to your attention. People are going to lose attention when there is not a sequence to it. There's not a beginning so they can ride the emotions with you. You want to tell a story that has emotions so that they feel as if they can ride it with you. The next one is that depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking to a man or a woman, I change my story. So if I'm talking to a woman, a lot more emotion and a lot more feelings are being put into it because they can relate with that better. When I'm talking to a guy, I'm much more linear and logical, like, yeah, bro, we went fucking here, we went here, but I still incorporate some emotions there. So when I'm talking to a dude, I will talk about hero stories. With girls, I'll go a little bit all over the place because that's a lot of the time how feminine energy goes. It goes all over the place. It's very free-flowy, where masculine energy is very practical and linear and straight line. They're the 7 points that I do to effectively tell better stories. So I'm gonna leave you with a story that happened to me. So when I got broken up with, it was the most heartbreaking thing I ever happened. It was 2012, 2013. It was just traumatic. It was the worst experience of my life, right? I ended up dipping down in depression and I felt as if my whole world had crumbled. I was in my room. I was just being a sorry sad sack that I would say right now. And what was happening was that I got so far into a depression, I ended up almost trying to take my life, which was crazy. But in a sheer stroke of luck, I was able to find a video that turned out to be my mentor. And we're talking 20 seconds. We're talking so close, so close. And then I end up working for him. I end up transforming my life. And the reason why social life mentoring is here, is the reason why you're watching this video, is because of that moment. It's because of that catalyst in life where I chose a different path to pursue social dynamics, and pursue my path into teaching people how to effectively communicate better, improve their status, and improve their social skills to get the social circle they want, the attraction from the abundance of girls they want, as well as become a leveled up, higher value man. That's the story I leave with you. So, improve your storytelling by these 7 principles, and I guarantee you that your next party that you go to, the next time you're able to tell a story, you incorporate these, you're going to be the life of the party. People are going to remember your story, and people are going to be appreciative and attentive to your story if you incorporate these. So Sam here, checking out, and I'll see you soon.